I just turned 80, and I think that's why I've been spending so much time thinking about my younger brother, Dick, who died almost 60 years ago. I really have very few things around to remind me of him. I found this passport photo. It's the only image I have of him. But the thing I think I have best memory of is the beginning notes of a musical piece he wrote just before he died. I'm right at the keyboard. I'm going to play it for you. Now, what I'm going to tell you in this video is how I use that little scrap of music with a lot of help to reconstruct Dick's musical composition to bring it into my life in the present. So first, a little background. So Dick died in 1968 at age 20. And by today's standards, we would say he was neurodivergent. He thought in a different way, approached the world in a different way. And I would say I wasn't as close to him and didn't really know him as well as I was, of course, with my other brothers. And it seemed like we didn't have much in common. Increasingly in my later years at home, I became obsessed with classical music. He didn't seem very interested in that. But then, in the last 4 years of his life, Dick caught fire. And what happened was he heard a man who became a famous classical organist playing the music of Johann Sebastian Bach. And Dick, it somehow touched his soul. And he said, I need to do that. So he got an organ teacher and he made arrangements at the church up the street that he could practice the organ there. And in a few short years, he became very proficient. This would have been a great way that I could have related to him. But unfortunately, in those years, I was in college and graduate school, and I had great summer jobs and programs. I was almost never home more than a week or two. And so, I knew Dick was playing the organ somehow, but I never heard him play. And when I was home, I was spending more time with my, friends that I still remembered from high school, and just generally absorbed in myself, I suppose. And so I didn't know what he was doing until just before he died. I heard him play a Bach piece on the organ. It was a difficult piece. He played it beautifully. And then after that, I went to a concert of pieces by young composers. And one of the pieces was an organ fugue that Dick had composed. I'll explain what a fugue is later. And I had no idea he was composing. So then he died very suddenly, it seemed to me, of a kind of cancer that was incurable then. And I went home to spend some time with my parents. And on the piano, I saw the sheet music for Dick's organ fugue. So I played it a couple times, on the piano. I just played the keyboard parts, couldn't play the pedal. And I got to know it pretty well. The parents were so distraught by Dick's death that the only way they could kind of heal themselves was my dad changed his job. He took a job in India. They lived overseas for the next 10 or 12 years, and they had different postings, and everything from the house was lost. Dick's organ fugue was lost, kind of like Dick, it was lost. And, each time they moved, they seemed to have fewer possessions. Maybe the things were too painful for them. But at any rate, we don't have any family albums or anything like that from that period. So I decided to see if I could reconstruct Dick's fugue and bring it into the present so I would have a little piece of him in my life now. So I commissioned a highly talented musical arranger, Keith Roeckle, to help me. And as we talked, I realized that because I knew he had written a fugue in the style of Bach, and I knew the first couple of notes, I knew much more about it than I realized. So let me explain what a fugue is and how that helped me. So in Dick's case, a fugue was like a trio. And the top voice played in the right hand, started by playing the fugue theme, which I already knew. Then there would be some transition material, which we created. And then the middle voice, while the top voice kept playing, the middle voice would now play the fugue theme. So in other words, the two voices would be playing together. But you'd focus on the middle voice, which then went and so on. And then those two top voices would be playing, and very much in the style of Bach, which limits you quite a bit to what you can do. And then the third voice would come in the pedal, much lower. Like that. So already we had created the first part of Dick's fugue. Then in the middle part of a fugue like that, here's what happens. In the composition, little pieces of the fugue theme are pulled out and made into a sort of piece. So in Dick's case, the fugue theme goes like this. So you'll hear the pedal go. And Dick's theme also had the 3-note pattern. So you'll hear various 3 notes. So it plays with little pieces of the theme, and then the fugue themes comes back, perhaps in a different key, higher, lower, or maybe in a different order. And then little pieces of the fugue theme, and then the fugue theme comes back, and then finally the fugue theme comes exactly back, and that's the end of the piece. So in other words, we already had the materials for the fugue, for Dick's organ fugue, and now we created those, but out of the same materials. So we had the same fugue theme, the same structure, the same source for the materials. So if you heard this piece, it sounded a lot like Dick's fugue. Now, you're now going to hear Dick's fugue. It's about just over 2 minutes, and it's played by a computer. So a couple of 3 things. If you want to just hear the fugue without me talking and see a printed copy of the fugue, look in the notes below. And secondly, when you listen to this, please get really good earphones or play it on a stereo, because this is played by a computer, and the computer uses the sounds from a huge organ in England, in Stratford-upon-Avon, and the pedal notes will sort of shake your teeth. It's so big and so loud. And third thing, I just want to say, this fugue has touched me so deeply. Just hearing this little bit of Dick and having this almost come alive. I mean, I can't describe for you how it has touched me. But also, I learned something kind of new and different about Dick. This piece, when you hear it, it has tremendous joy. It's like pure joy. And what I realized is I didn't see so much joy in Dick's life when we were children together, but now I think he had found joy, and that's what he expressed in this piece, and that's what he left for us. So what I want you to do is to listen to this piece, enjoy it, feel the joy, and if you like it, send it to somebody else. Share the love, share the joy, and thank you for listening.